Hi everyone, welcome again to the Colonial channel. Today we shall be discussing a few things that were not mentioned the last time during the discussion of who are African Americans and who are Africans. It has been about a week or so and I'm extremely excited to bring to you the information, the feedback, the content that we are going to be discussing today. I'll tell you something about today though. Today is an extremely hot day. Piece of advice, if you're out there on a hot summer day like this, grab a cold or chilled or a warm bottle of water. You want to hydrate yourself at such times. Now, today we shall be discussing what are some of the similarities between African Americans and Africans post-colonial and post-slave trade or post-slavery. What are some of the similarities that the African American man or the African American woman has in common with the African man in Africa or the African woman? Number one, the African man lost. Now I'm talking about the African American after slavery or during the process of slavery. The African man lost his name, his ancestral identity, the names that were given to him by his family, his ancestors, the names that carry his ethnicity, his tribe, his genealogy. The African man in America lost all of this in the process of being assimilated in the American society. He lost his name and he also lost his land, because originally speaking, a lot of those who came through slave trade lost their lands. And so the geography in which they found themselves in the current times was not theirs. A lot of people were forcefully removed from their land and sold by relatives in Africa. Sorry, I have sirens at the road passing through. Sold by relatives in Africa, having no idea where they were heading towards. Now, for those who were already in America, the Africans who had already moved the transatlantic and found themselves in America, they still lost the land that they had occupied through different forms of warfare and forcefully removing them out of the control of the lands that they had occupied at that time. So the African man not only lost his name, he also lost his land. Same as the Indians, the Red Indians, they also lost their land. The African American as well lost his historical education. And a lot of the information about the history and the identity of the African man in America was removed and sidelined from mainstream education, such that over a period of time, the African American man had little to no idea the origins of his ancestry and found himself seeking to assimilate himself by himself into a society that already castigated him and considered him an outcast. Reasons why the country called Liberia was formed, because there was little to no acceptance of the free African man in the American society at that time. So he lost his identity through losing his name, losing his land, losing the education about his history and the land. And he also lost his wealth, because taking away the land is removing from contact the riches and the prosperity that was already abundant during that piece of time. And whatever the African American or the African man at this time claimed to own, he lost, because the lands were no longer his, so to say, were forcefully removed from ownership. So he lost his name, he lost his land, he lost his education, his history, he lost his wealth, and of course, he lost his culture. Because culture has these four things. It has names, it has history or education, it has land for the appropriation of ethnicity, and it has its wealth, what is considered valuable. So there's no doubt why the African American man will not know himself today. On the other side of the Atlantic, the African man in Africa, thinking that he may be better than the African American man, is absolutely wrong. Because although the African man in Africa did not necessarily lose his land, he lost the name of that land. A lot of African lands, places, the countries that we see today and call different names: Nigeria, South Africa, Namibia, Cameroon. Some of those places, a lot of those places, this is not their original name, and so they lost the name of their lands as well. And a lot of the population in Africa lost their personal names, and there was a mixture of African and what you call the christening name. The christening name is a name where you get a European name added onto your African name, or your African name is removed and replaced with a European name as part of joining the Christianity movement, I want to say. So they lost their names, they lost the names of the land as well. And much more than just losing the name of the lands, they also lost the wealth of the land. As we know today, a lot of African countries' land is being exploited by Western influence and presence. China, US strength. A lot of African nations are actually proud of being part of the Commonwealth. And we'll get to that another day. A lot of African wealth and resources are sitting in foreign banks. Gold, copper, silver, uranium, whatever, coming from Africa. Oil doesn't belong to the Africans, exploited by companies that are foreign. History. The African man in Africa lost his history as well. The curriculum of studies in Africa is entirely governed by Western ideas, Western opinions, Western perspective. And I'm not saying that the Western perspective is always wrong, no. But the identity that the African man has through his history was corrupted, misplaced, stolen, hidden from him. And it's because of this ignorance that you could find a lot of Africans in Africa having no idea the relationship they have with their brothers, their cousins in America today. Poverty engineered by evil minds deceased Africa of all or most of its resources. Live in Africa drenched of every cultural pride. So, my advice for the African or the African American today: pick up a book, study about the history of Africa or Africa and the discovery of America. Know yourself, your history, and find yourself in the land in which you find yourself in today. Or you could subscribe to my channel or channels of similar magnitude or focus, so that you could get for free information and analysis and feedback and content about such affairs that we face today in the current society. Thank you very much for listening till the end, and au revoir.